Hi, John. Welcome to the Entrepreneurs Organization Wonder Podcast.
It's so great to be with you, and thanks for having me.
So, John Assaraf is probably best known. I don't know if he's best known how I know him. Is he was in a movie called The Secret? You
Oh,
guys know The
yeah.
Secret?
That's the secret. That was, I think, one of 11 movies now, which is great.
What was that experience like, John?
It was actually so different than most people think that it was. And Rhonda Byrne, who had the idea for The Secret, she actually read my book called Having It All. And in the book, I told the story of my vision board where I cut out a picture of a home that, I liked. And I said, one day I'm going to live in a house like that. And I ended up living in that house, even though I didn't know where it was or how much it was, about 6 years later. And she wanted to do this movie about the law of attraction. And she wanted to know, how did I manifest that house? And so she asked if she was in Australia, and she asked if she could interview me when she was in the United States to film a whole bunch of other people. I said, sure. And I happened to be in Arizona for a meeting that she was going to be to interview several other people that I was actually in a mastermind with. And so we were sitting in a hotel room, with a green screen behind us on a chair, a camera looking at us right in the face. And she just basically stood behind the camera, like leaned over and said, okay, question number one. And then she looked back behind the camera, and I sat there in the chair and said, okay, here's the answer. And it was in a hotel room. And then she took the footage from that. And then between me and the other, guests, people in the movie, she created this little masterpiece that over 500 million people have seen.
Including me. And I've watched it many, many times. Right? So they've seen it once, but what about all those rewatches?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a total surprise. You never know, whether, this podcast gets seen by 10 million people because of something you say or I say, or if it gets seen by 100,000 people. You never know when you agree to, be in a movie, if it's going to be a success or not. And this happened to be one of those movies that, took off like a rocket ship.
So when you were walking down the street, would people stop you?
A ton every day when the movie came out for about 2 years. I couldn't go into an airport, a restaurant, shopping in a mall where people, wouldn't stop me. I still have that happen maybe once a month now. This morning, I was walking on the beach with my sister, and this guy stopped me. I go, hey, aren't you John Assaraf from The Secret? I said, yeah. And he said, can I shake your hand? And shook his hand and kept walking. And so every once in a while it happens, but it happened a lot back then.
I still remember in my mind seeing you with that poster, or seeing, I guess a B-roll of that poster of that house.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. Listen, I learned many years ago, and, listen, I'm an entrepreneur. I learned many years ago that the more clear we are on what it is we want to achieve, the easier it is for our brain to focus on that. So I used to not just have my goals in writing, which I still do, but then what are the visual representations of those goals? And they could be, whether it's your physique, your income, your business, your home, your car, and that gives your brain an opportunity to focus on that. But what I still don't know, right, is how was it possible for me to cut out a picture of a home from a magazine, put it on a vision board, and yes, I would visualize. Yes, I would do all that stuff, the metaphysical stuff or the woo-woo stuff. But I also, understand a little bit about the brain science and the psychological stuff that happens in our brains. And I still don't know, like, how is it possible to pick a picture in a home from Dream Homes magazine in an area that you've never been to, in a city you've never lived in, and you end up in that house, 5-6 years later. That's still a mystery. And that's the power of this quantum field that we're all living in. And how is that possible? There isn't anybody on earth that knows the answer of how it happened, but I know it happened. And so guess what I do all the time? Like I have, right here on my desk, On my Exceptional Life Blueprint, I have my vision board for things I've achieved or things that I'm working on. That's my family and stuff that I'm working towards, or some things that I've already achieved. Like I want to see the Earth from the moon. So I have that as a picture there. And so I trust that there are methods that are working or laws that are working beyond our current understanding. And I've had enough evidence of whether it's meeting people that I want to meet or need to meet, or having something appear that I need, or that I've visualized, or having things happen because I have been very, very clear on what I want, whether it's in written form and visual form, or through me expressing it. So I just trust that, the universe works by law, not by luck.
And what's wonderful is that you're helping millions of people also hone this skill. You have NeuroGym. Tell us about that.
Yeah, my company, NeuroGym. One of the things I think every entrepreneur will agree with this that's been around a little bit, and I know EO is a great organization, and is that mindset is what separates the best or the most successful from the rest. And so the question then becomes, what is mindset, right? We all know that we have a brain, but how many of us have ever been trained on how to use our brain? We get driving lessons, we get riding bike lessons, but when have you ever been taught how to use your brain better? It's $100 billion biocomputer. And many people have never been taught about the three core circuits in their, or the three core networks in their brain. They haven't been taught about what triggers the stress circuit, the fear circuit, the motivational circuit, what turns it on or off, how to. And so the work that I do is really teaching, many entrepreneurs, probably about 80% of my followers and clients are entrepreneurs. How do I use my brain better so I can achieve my business and life goals faster?
More of a straight line than a jagged one.
Yeah. And listen, we all know as an entrepreneur, the line to success is never straight. And so that's the fun part of being a behavioral neuroscientist, is just researching all of the mechanisms, the neuromechanisms or neuromechanics, of thinking, thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, et cetera, that drives, the results. A lot of times people look at the results, and I look at, why were the results achieved, or why were the results not achieved? Why is it that somebody could go to a university and get an MBA or a degree in marketing, but then not apply it because they're afraid? Like, why? Like, what's happening in there? And so that's kind of the fun stuff that I do. And then we have, created brain training programs that we call Inner Sizes, which is based on my other best-selling book over there. And that one's great for entrepreneurs. Let's see, right there. That's The Answer.
So what is one tip? I'm sure that you have many. We have a global audience of entrepreneurs,
Sure.
From anyone, making less than $1 million to hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yep.
What type of advice would you give them?
So there's understanding the goal achieving process is different than the goal setting process. So almost every entrepreneur, they can have a vision for what they would like. Every entrepreneur could set some goals to achieve, that. Every entrepreneur can either figure out or find out what are the strategies, what are the tactics, what are the tools and resources that I can use. And that's all great, but also ask yourself this question. If it was just about information and strategies and tactics and timelines and tools and resources and vision, wouldn't everybody have $1 billion company? And so the question is, why are you or your business earning $1 million and not 10? Or why is your business earning 500,000 and not $1 million? Why is your business earning 10 million and not 25 million? And the answer is possibly A, you haven't committed to that goal. And a commitment means doing whatever it takes. That's part one. Part two is maybe you have some beliefs that are limiting you. That's an inner game stuff. Maybe you really don't feel like you deserve, to achieve that level of success. That's an inner game, subconscious, pattern. Maybe you have fears. Maybe it's a fear of losing what you have. So you're afraid of going after what you want. Maybe it's a fear of trying your best and it's not good enough, which will affect what others think of you or what you think of you. And you're avoiding disappointing yourself or others. Maybe it's a fear of being rejected or embarrassed or ashamed or ridiculed. Or maybe it's a fear of failure, right? So whenever we're dealing with what may be happening underneath the surface, those are the real reasons that people do not take the action required. When it's true that the how to achieve just about any goal that you want right now is readily available if you're committed. So if you are not committed, then you're interested. And when you're interested, you do what's easy and convenient. And when you're interested, you allow your, present circumstances or your past circumstances to control your thinking and your behaviors. And that leads to one final piece of the equation is habits are what drive your behavior 95+% of the time. So you just may not have the right emotional habits, thought habits, and behavioral habits. So now we go back into the domain, of neuroscience and neuropsychology. So now we're getting a little bit deeper into the mix of what really causes results.
So is the first thing to decide to be committed?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing, is to decide, am I really committed 100% to doing whatever it takes, obviously ethically and professionally, but doing whatever it takes to break the patterns of being me, to interrupt the patterns of my current business. And so it's whether it's to interrupt the current systems, interrupt the current people, interrupt the current, SOPs. Like
Standard
you have
operating
to take a look at,
for people.
yeah, but it has to start with breaking my own patterns that have gotten used to the results that I currently am getting.
How did you get into this? Like, tell us your origin story. Was there a catalyst? Do people need a catalyst to wake up?
No, I mean, a catalyst helps. Pain is a very, very good motivator. But fear is also a good motivator if you know how to turn it into your fuel. It's not one that you want to use a lot, but fear of loss can get people to take action. Fear of failure can get people to take action, but it's not the best source of energy long term. It's okay, for a little bit of that, adrenaline and cortisol to get you going, but you don't want to use that on an ongoing basis because you're always running away from that. And a better motivator is to have a little bit of that, but to have some of your running towards because you're so excited for that. So a little bit of both is great. Like what most people don't talk about or understand is the state of flow isn't a calm, relaxed, Zen state. That's what people think flow is. It's not. The state of flow is actually, if you take a look at an athlete at the Olympics, most athletes at the Olympics, they are calm on the outside, but they're like, there's this like, let's get go. Come on. I've been training for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years to get here. And so there is this adrenaline and cortisol. That's kind of like the rocket fuel underneath that connects with the dopamine and serotonin, anticipating the oxytocin at the finish line with the gold. That's what actually a flow state is. And if you've practiced enough, then you can get into this flow state. So flow states are a combo of that. So what happened to me was when I was in my early 20s, I was a real estate agent and I did well initially, then went around the world and traveled, and then I came back and had no money. I got back into real estate and started working really hard to make money. And I ended up with severe ulcerative colitis. And that colitis created bleeding ulcers in my colon. That got my colon to swell and didn't have a lot of room for anything to pass through my colon. So I'd have these, explosions of pooping in my pants wherever I was, in the car, at a restaurant, making love, wherever, it just wanted to go, it went. And so I started, taking pills and doing things with the doctors for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, a lot of pain. And the doctor said, if it doesn't get better, we're going to have to remove part of your colon. I'm like, what? I'm like 22, 23 years young. And so I started to research, like, I didn't even think like a lot about what's the cause of my ulcerative colitis. I have colitis, go to the doctor. Doctor gives you pills. The pills, reduce the inflammation, but didn't get better. So I started to realize, I was watching a TV show and I saw some individuals talking about something called psychoneuroimmunology. There's a mind-body connection. And regardless of, what may be going on, you can like heal yourself. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. And so I started to research what might be causing colitis. And there's some of the books said it might be genetic. Okay. Other books said it, could be stress, and the stress was activating predisposition for colitis. Another said it could be part of I was born in the Jewish culture, so it could be that, genetic again. And but it said the things that you can do is meditate. Okay. Things that you can do is eat better. Things you can do is exercise. Things you can do is think positive thoughts and create this environment mentally and physically that's more of health. And so I started to eat better, started to sleep better, stop drinking alcohol, start to exercise, start to visualize my colon getting healthy. I started to do everything that I learned about. And after 18 months of suffering, within 5 weeks, my colitis went away.
Away?
Gone. I was able to go to the bathroom normally.
Wow.
And so I was like, wow,
Wow.
there's something to this, visualization stuff and this. And I had this affirmation. I actually, I have it in my Exceptional Life Blueprint that I have, and it's my daily health affirmation. And basically it says, my body and all its organs were created by the infinite intelligence in my subconscious mind. It created all my muscles, tissues, bones, and organs, and it knows how to heal me. Perfect is the creative intelligence within me. I am now perfectly healthy. I would recite that 50 times a day. I would read it. I would run my fingers left and right through it. I recorded it on a cassette tape and listened to it while I was driving my car. 5 weeks later, colitis is gone. I went back to my doctor and he's like, well, what in the world have you been doing? I told him. He says, well, great, keep taking the pills. I said, you don't understand. You keep treating the symptom. I fixed the cause.
Wow.
So I got into like, how powerful is this brain of ours? And literally this was 38 years ago, and I have not stopped studying the human brain and the neuromechanics of stuff. And I've used it to build companies. I've used it to be healthier. I've used it in every area of my life to make it better.
And you're living proof.
I turned the mess into the message.
Wow. And now you're helping people. So you put up those books. How do people get your books?
If you want to find out more about me, go to johnassaraf.com. There's lots of stuff there, but all of them are available on Amazon bookstores. Amazon, there's the Inner Size is, unlocking your brain's hidden power. Having It All is about setting and achieving goals. The Answer is about growing your business and using quantum physics, neuroscience, and business practices for, marketing and selling. And I just, I live my life. I research, I write, I apply. I'm the guinea pig, and then I teach what works.
I mean, so brilliant.
Thanks.
What do you do for fun?
I do that for fun, but I also love to travel. I love to entertain. I love to eat hot sauces and make my own hot sauces. Traveling is big on my list. I love to ski. I love to scuba dive. I love to exercise, which, is part of my day-to-day routine. I love to meditate. I love sharing what I learn with others. That's part of my contribution of, this is what's worked for me. And I want to, use my life first, to enjoy life, to have a phenomenal journey, and then to use my life to brighten up somebody else's life by giving them ideas, answers, tools, resources to make their journey amazing.
And you also surround yourself with such phenomenal people. I saw that you also have this brainathon that's happening.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Actually, we have our brainathon. I've been doing it for 10 years. So a lot of people have always asked, like, where are you learning this stuff? Who are you hanging around? And I said, well, I play with, some top neuroscientists and neuropsychologists and success experts. And we're always talking about what's the latest discoveries to let go of beliefs that limit me. How do I stop this imposter syndrome from, causing me to self-sabotage? How do I develop new habits? How do I let go of traumas that I had in childhood? How do I manage my focus and attention better? And so I started doing these. I did this event this one year called the Brainathon. I invited, 5, 6 of my, super smart friends who love to share and teach. And we did like an 8-hour training on a Saturday for free. And we had like 25,000 people sign up. And so we said, wow, what if we replayed the live session the following week? And we had like 10,000 people show up. And then we've had for 10 years now, I do these now. And we have anywhere between, 5,000 and 15,000 people sign up every week to watch the Brainathon with our experts. And millions of people, have signed up for it. And we do it for free and we share. And you go to brainathon.com, or go to my website, johnassaraf.com, or myneurogym.com, and there'll be links there. And it's free.
You have phenomenal people like Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett. Like, I love her TED Talk.
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't know her yet.
Yeah.
And everyone knows Jack Canfield and Lisa Nichols, Marissa Peer, but wow, you've got some, well, you're also a heavy hitter too, but like, you surround yourself. Is surround yourself also really important to build good habits?
Yeah. Environment is really, really important. Not only because, we learn from the people around us, but expectations are set by the people that you hang around. So if you hang around, with a lot of negative people with excuses, stories, reasons why they can't, versus hang around with people who have the same, reasons, but they figure out, how can I overcome this thing? It changes what your brain focuses on. It changes what you see as possible. So the more you surround yourself, and this is where, like, listen, EO is great, right? It's like, why are you part of EO? Well, because you're surrounded yourself with people who are, climbing mountains, people who, while they're climbing mountains, have boulders trying to drop in. Oh, I did this. Oh, no, I did it that way. I did, so you're learning from each other. And so whenever you're surrounding yourself with people that are doing, what you're doing, that are looking for solutions and looking to let go, release excuses, stories, reasons why you can't or it can't be done, then you're lifting yourself up and you're seeing evidence of the possibility that exists all around us. And when we're with people that are achieving the results that we want to achieve, we don't just see possibility. The possibilities become, instead of possible, probable and predictable. And that gives us more certainty that I'm on the right track, or I need to veer left or veer right. And so environment, the people you hang around with, absolutely critical for motivation, critical for strategy, critical for us to see what's possible, for them to see what's possible through how we handle stuff. Because we all have to adapt. We all have adversity. We all have issues. We all have challenges, whether they're internal or external. And when we see others' perspective and we get lifted up by them, changes everything. Environment is huge.
Thank you for that. And also, another topic I want to talk about, because your business, you're in online distance learning, which you've been in it for what, decades, and now it's everyone wants to be proficient at it. Do you have any tips for people who do have online businesses? How did you make your business run so well?
Well, with what I do specifically, is so for example, I have a program called Winning the Game of Business, Brain Training and Coaching, program. And prior to this, interview with you and just being on with you, we have about 1,000 business owners that we train. And so we have software basically to help them retrain their brains. It's based on inner sizes using evidence-based methods to get their self-talk right, their emotional regulation right, their self-image, self-worth, self-esteem augmented, their belief systems augmented, their habits created, the neural patterns for the empowering habits. But then we also have what's the knowledge and skills that they want. So for me, I knew that I did not want to build a business model around me traveling around the world, and teaching. Traveling around the world is fun. Traveling around the world and, being in an airplane and in a hotel room and in restaurants and going from city to city to city, that's painful for me. 5 times a year? Sure. 10 times a year? Sure. And I get paid, 75 grand for a keynote now, 125,000 internationally, and I get paid handsomely. And I don't mind doing it once in a while, but 25 times, 50 times, not fun. So I asked myself a question, and this is where our business model matters, right? I asked myself a question: what do I really want to do? I want to share. I want to give, let's say, entrepreneurs, what I've learned about mindset at the highest level of the game. I want to give them the skills that I've learned in neuromarketing and neurosales, that helped me build Remax to 4.5 billion, Bamboo.com to 2.5 billion. My current company is a 7-figure a month company. I want to give them those tools, but I don't want to do the traveling. So yes, I could write. I've written books, but then this thing called the internet, started a while back. And back in the early 2000s, I started writing and putting my content out. I started doing videos, and then I started to do I started to do teleseminars. Then I started to do webinars way back then. We used to do presentations when people were on the phones, and hey, if you want more information, press 1, and that would take you to one of my success advisors. And then we went to webinars. And now we do, webinars. I just had 2,800 small business owners on a 10-day training that we just finished last week. All of them, we got online. Every month I spend 300,000 to 400,000, 500,000 some months on lead generation online. Every month.
And it's automated.
Yeah, and we get, 35,000, 40,000 new leads a month. Not a year, a month. And so we've just figured out how to get in front of the audience that wants or needs what we have. We figured out a way to disseminate that information to them. And then for those who want to go further, we say, hey, here's a free PDF. Here's a free video. Would you like to speak to one of my success advisors? Would you like to look at one of our courses that might be able to help you achieve your goals faster? And so 99% of my business is online with our learning system online. We have live and on-demand stuff. So it's not just, do it on your own. It's like you have the content you need, but then you can ask questions. We have, special communities for, let's say, entrepreneurs. And as I mentioned just before this, we were doing a session on how to get some free or low-cost publicity. And I had, one of my friends who's an expert in publicity train these small business owners. And so whether it's neuromarketing or publicity or doing sales online or learning how to sell better or learning how to, generate leads, qualified leads at a reasonable cost. That's what every business owner needs. So we're able to disseminate the information just like this.
Do you know that SNL thing, Saturday Night Live thing, and it's a segment that's called "Is My Brain Okay?" Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
It's basically they put up pictures, like a picture of a wheelbarrow, and someone's just like, they can't even they don't even know what that wheelbarrow is. They don't know what it is. And they had this segment come after COVID. How has our brain changed because of COVID or the pandemic? Or has it?
Well, there's different parts of the brain that, like a lot of people, not a lot of people, some people are suffering from, long COVID symptoms, and so people are experiencing brain fog. There's some people that are feeling exhausted. So functionally, we know that every brain works the same. But we also know that, when a virus hits my body and a virus hits your body, there may be differences in how it reacts. So when we're talking about, the human brain during COVID, ask yourself, this question: are people who are able to manage situations better and be adaptable less prone to stress as people who are maybe a little bit less skilled? So is adaptation a skill? Of course it is. Of course it is. Is the meaning that I give anything responsible for how I feel? Of course it is. Are there people that COVID was, disastrous in their personal lives? Yes. And are there people that, as I said, because of COVID, I thrived? Of course. So the question is it COVID? Right? Is it the war? Is it the economy? Is it the interest rates? So there are some people that get fixated on the problem, and there's other people who get fixated on the solution to any problem. That's the razor's edge, right? There are some people, when something happens to them, they're victims. And there's others that take the lesson about what happened to them and they are victorious. Now, those are skills. Those are skills that you can learn. And that's specifically called the framing skills, is how the meaning I give anything determines how I feel. How I feel determines what I do or don't do. So can we become better at giving things meaning that lift us up versus put us down, no matter what it is? And the answer is yes. Now, we do know that if you think about the word stress, right? Like stress, there's two types of stress. Most people aren't aware of this. There is bad stress, but there's also eustress, EU stress. It's called it's eustress. Eustress is actually good stress. When you're passionate, right, about achieving a goal and dream, like, oh, I'm working evenings and mornings, that's actually good stress. Are you working a lot? Yeah, but it's good stress because you're motivated, you're happy, you're figuring out, you're curious, and you're creating. Now, too much of that can lead to bad stress because you're using up the attention units and you're depleting, your energy resources. But what causes the stress circuit to activate? Well, how about this for a meaning? When the current demand, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, current demand exceeds your current capacity, that activates a circuit in your brain called the stress circuit or the sympathetic nervous system. When that happens, right, what happens when stress is activated? One of three things happen: fight, flight, freeze. Everybody knows that: fight, flight, freeze. When that happens, we know that the thinking, imagination, deductive reasoning, CEO of the brain, which I call as the Einstein brain, turns off, left prefrontal cortex. And this Frankenstein's monster kicks in. Oh my God, what's going on? What if I fail? What if I'm rejected? What if I run out of money? What if I hire the wrong person? What if negative? So we have this gas and brakes part of our brain. And when stress is activated, this part of the brain goes online in nanoseconds. When we fight, we freeze, or we flee. So how do I deactivate that and operate more from that genius part of our brain? Well, we can do the first exercise called Take 6, Calm the Circuits. So our brain, hold on. I'll use an example. I always have my plastic brain. We have our brain stem. Mm-hmm. We have the instinctual part of the brain, the emotional brain, and then the frontal lobes. When our sympathetic nervous system is activated, we're feeling anxiety, we're feeling stress. The neurochemicals that are going through our bodies is like a little bit of, it's like intense, a little bit more intense than this calm, relaxed state. And I know that I've activated a part of my brain that is, high alert, high aware, and it's shifting blood flow from my thinking brain to my reactive automatic brain. And so how do I get my thinking brain back online in a stressful situation? And the answer is 6 slow breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth as if you're breathing out through a straw. Deactivates the stress center of the brain and recalibrates and puts the parasympathetic calm to respond system back online. So 1, fight, flight, freeze. 1's calm to respond. When we're in a fight, flight, or freeze modality or state, then we are going to always behave at the highest level of our training under that circumstance. Highest level of automatic training. So why do Navy SEALs, firefighters, police officers, astronauts, successful entrepreneurs, why do they stay calm when there's a shitstorm going on? Because they have practiced or have been trained to. So the question is, if I can use my brain a little bit better and practice the things that are going to help me be more calm so I could respond, now we're much more in control than being reactive. So, exercise number 1, I call it take 6, calm the circuits. So how do you get good at it? Every hour, take 6 breaths slowly in through your nose, slowly out through your mouth, just so you can deliberately practice that skill. But then after you do exercise number 1, do exercise number 2, and it's called AYA, A-I-A. And AYA stands for awareness, intention, action. So the question is, awareness of what? Well, if something just triggered me into a stressed, fearful, uncertain, doubt, anxious state, don't you want to know what that trigger was? Because the circuit that's activated is just a signal. It's just a signal. So awareness of thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and behaviors in the present moment. Like, what thoughts was I having? What feelings or emotions was I having? What behaviors was I getting ready to do? And then what triggered that? Like, what triggered it? Right now, we're in a state of awareness, and awareness is what gives us choice. And then choice is what can give us the freedom that we seek. So if we practice awareness, mindfulness, then we set an intention for the I, awareness, intention, and then say, well, what's one action step that I can take towards what I want instead of away from something that I know I need to go and do? Right. So now we're talking about, investing a little bit of time, learning a little bit about my neuromechanics of how my brain works, and then just being a better operator. Like, you learn how to drive your car or your motorcycle or boat, or you learn how to ski, or you learn how to play ping pong. You learn how to use your brain better because, we're not our brain. We have a brain, but the brain works on a hierarchy of principles and automatic reactions or responses. And so safety and security is the number 1 priority of the brain, avoidance of pain or discomfort, number 2, conservation of energy, number 3, and then gain or pleasure, number 4. So if we as a business owner, are operating in a state of fear of that, that's not a great state to always be in. It's okay once in a while, but you don't need that all the time. You need to be in a calm, responsive state, not a fearful state. And so now we learn how to use the brakes and the gas properly. And we know how to activate or deactivate, whether it's the motivational center or the fear center.
Are you fight, flight, or freeze?
Yeah, and the 4th one, which doesn't happen very often, is faint. It's actually 4, but most people know 3. Fight, flight, faint, freeze. Yeah, so fight. We try to fight the thing. We freeze into inaction, deer in headlights, or we run away, or we do other things.
I'm flight.
Yeah. So when people get stressed, some people flee. You're a
You know,
fleer.
so I was telling you earlier that my dad is in hospice. I was in Hawaii for about 2 weeks, and you know what I did? Instead of dealing with it, I watched 6 seasons of How to Get Away with Murder, and I never watched Netflix. That's what I did. Crazy, right?
It
That's
is.
how I
Well,
escaped.
it's a coping mechanism, right? It's a coping mechanism. Now, here's the really good news. Once you know this is how I react automatically, then you can say, okay, sometimes it serves me, but then do I want to continue that behavior? And if the answer is no, awareness, they go, well, what's my intention? Well, my intention is when this happens, what I really want to do is this. Okay, good. Let's take a little action step towards that. Now we're aware of a pattern. We set an intention. We deliberately do something that we don't normally do. And thereby we just interrupted the pattern, created a more empowering, constructive, positive pattern. That's how we get our brain to change. When we change our brain, we can change our life.
Also notice too, whenever there's some type of difficult conversation and someone sends me an email, like I don't want to read that email, which is, I
Yeah.
guess, flight. So how would
Called
someone,
conflict avoidance.
yeah,
It's called conflict avoidance or reality avoidance. We're avoiding that because of what it means to us or what we think could happen.
so how do you jumpstart that? I got to get you that book.
Let's think about, somebody writes you an email that's, let's say, confrontational, or writes you an email of disappointment, or writes you an email like attacking you and is angry, right? So are there people that would read that email and then say, oh, wow, so and so is mad at me, disappointed, angry, whatever the case is. Let me call him or her, or let me respond in a kind, loving way, saying, I'm so sorry, that you feel this way. It wasn't my intention. Would you be okay if we discuss this so I can make this better?
That
Right?
sounds good.
So usually when we're avoiding something, it's not the thing that we're avoiding. It's an emotion that we think we won't be able to handle, or a consequence that we don't think we'll be able to handle. And the question is that true? Like, is it really true? Right? Is it possible for me to allow somebody to be angry with me without me retaliating? Is it possible for me to be okay with somebody being angry with me and me being calm? Is it possible, for me to think through what they might be thinking or feeling or experiencing and either say, yes, they're right, or no, they're not right. Let me see if I can shift their perspective in a calm state. But then there's the other part of this, and that is sometimes when, we're attacked, whether it's in an email or it's derogatory, then what we're actually feeling is that, oh my God, I'm flawed. And they're pointing that out. So now it's a self-image issue that we really need to take a look at. Why is email, his words, her words, their words affecting me so much? So awareness, thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, behavior. So awareness of my feeling like, God, this is bothering me. Okay, take 6 deep breaths. Why is this bothering me? Like, why? Why is this? I'll give you a perfect example.
Please.
Somebody posted something about my company on one of the websites, and it apparently is a former employee that said, it's a great place to work if at the end of the day you like to kick, puppies, type of thing. I'm like, what?
Wow.
Oh, I mean, that really bothered me.
Right.
I was talking to Andrea, my EA, and another member of our team, and I said, like, is that what our company is like? Like, that's the last thing I want to create. And so if that's how this person felt, I don't know if they're just mad, if it's a real person or not, irrelevant, but it bothered me. because
Yeah.
that's the last thing that we want. I want to have a loving, caring, kind, intense work environment of high performers. And I don't mind, having high standards, but I don't want that. And when I looked at why would it bother me for them to say that, is because I really don't want anybody to think of me and my company that way. That hurts my feelings, that's their experience. So I question, could I have done, can I do something different so that nobody ever writes something like that around me? So what is it that I did or didn't do? What is it that I allowed to happen intentionally or unintentionally to cause somebody to feel that way? So I said, you know what? Thank you for giving me that different perspective and for going deeper on looking at this.
The other day, one of my employees had said that I was passive aggressive because I use ellipses, ...
Mm-hmm.
And then that also hurt my feelings. So I'm just like, really? I'm being passive aggressive? And then I looked it up. And so apparently, to millennials, our older generation, I'm Generation X, the use of ellipses means that you're withholding information from them and they don't like it. That was a learning thing for me because I use ellipses all the time.
Yeah. So the meaning we give anything determines how we feel. And if I don't know your meanings and you don't know mine, then we're going to have a miscommunication. Yeah. And so, people react based on the meanings and the associations that they have inside their heads, but so do we. And most reactions are unconscious in billionths of a second. It's automatic, right? It's cues. And then the cue sets off the chain reaction, right? So that's where awareness of you, awareness of me, how I behave, why I behave that way, why don't I behave this way, gives me greater ability to make smarter, better decisions. But that's an inside out job. That's me wanting to get better, me wanting to seek to understand more, right? Me want to understand myself more. I want to understand, we know we have 6,200 thoughts a day, 6,200. We know that the average person has over 80% of their thoughts are negative. Now, some people hold on to those negative thoughts and they keep recreating more negative thought patterns. And other people might have 30% negative thoughts a day. Maybe it's genetic. Okay, so let's say it could be genetic, but is it possible to relearn what we know about thoughts? So let's say there's 6,200 thoughts percolating from our subconscious mind, from our brain somewhere, okay? And is it possible to latch on to, let's say, the 20% that are positive and create more of those, and to be aware of and let go of the 80% that are disempowering, negative, destructive? Sure, that's called mindfulness. So in the absence of being mindful, being aware, then I'm going to be reactive. And if I keep reacting the same way over and over and over again, remember the third governing law of the brain, conservation of energy? So if I keep reacting the same way over and over again, our brain says, oh, you keep doing that. Let me just make that automatic. So if I keep thinking about negative thoughts, if I keep thinking about the negative consequences, if I keep thinking about the stuff that happened in the past that I didn't like, or what she did to me, or what he did to me, or the mistakes I've made, my brain just becomes really proficient at doing more of that. Oh, can I
Without
stop
judgment,
that?
right? Because
Well,
it's not
yeah,
judging you.
yeah. It's our brain is, like I said, it's a biocomputer that works, very different than a computer, but similarly, in as much as whatever programming is there, the program just runs. That's called automaticity. It's just an automatic pattern to conserve energy. So the question is, can I upgrade my brain software? Of course you can. Can I disrupt patterns that don't serve? Of course you can. Can I upgrade my identity to match my new destiny? Of course you can. You weren't born with any beliefs, any identity, any values, any fears, any self-image or self-worth or self-esteem. You're none. Those are all neurons that fired together, that wired together, got reinforced, purely from a neuromechanical perspective. So most people take their car to a mechanic to fix. Well, who do you take your brain in to fix? And I'm not talking about, the need for a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Some people see a psychiatrist, some people see a psychologist. But what if, you just want to let go of limiting beliefs? What if you just want to have a healthier self-image? What if you just want to create new habits that are more empowering than the ones you currently have? Those are like do it yourself or get a little bit of help doing it model, right? You don't need brain surgery, but you do need to learn a little bit more about how you can manage yourself better, right? It's about self-talk regulation, emotional regulation, and certainly behavioral regulation. And if we are creatures of habit, what do you know about habits? Where are they in your brain? How long does it take to formulate one and get rid of one? And it's not 21 days.
It's not?
No, that's old thinking from the 60s and 70s. So the new thinking, for example, is any pattern requires between 66 days and 365 days. Okay, it's kind of like a renovation, okay, of the interior of your mind. The patterns, the neural patterns, take 66 days to 365 days to create and reinforce a new pattern that will render the old pattern dormant or atrophy. It's not the old pattern goes away. The old pattern's still there. It just doesn't fire easily, so it doesn't fire. This one now fires easier, right? So can we deliberately and consciously evolve ourselves? Yeah, but you have to be committed to wanting to do that, because if you're not committed, you won't do 60 days.
Not just
And
interested.
here's part of the problem. And this happens, whether you're a business owner, EO, is we like what can I change like this weekend? Now we can change certain things this weekend, but you're not going to information doesn't change skill. So we have a state of awareness, we have a state of awareness of what it is, we have a state of some knowledge. The skill happens when you apply what you learn, right? You can't change your golf score unless you're out on the field, playing golf. And the learning comes on the field. I don't care how much you watch Tiger Woods golf swing. Okay. You might have the mechanics in your head, but you need to go and practice to create that connection between the practice and doing and the technical knowing. So if you're going to make any change that you want to make habitual, first, am I interested? Am I committed? And then all my students commit to at least 100 days. If you don't want to commit 100 days, don't come into my orbit for my courses and my training. Why? Because if you're serious about the result, then be serious about the work. And this is why a lot of people don't do what they know. If you think about diets is always a really good visual because everybody can understand diets. Yeah. And why do most people who go on a diet after 2 or 3 weeks, you usually just lose 14 or 21 days of their time? Because they lose the weight and they gain it back. And every diet works short term, but the problem isn't in the diet. Most people reach their goal and they stop the diet. So of course they're going to gain it back. So that's called the yo-yo syndrome. And the question is, what is going on in their brain to cause them to stop the exercise, nutrition, or sleep program? And that is they didn't change the habitual part of being themselves for longer than 3 or 4 weeks. Most people stay on a diet for less than 7 days. Not because they can't,
right?
Not because they can't. They don't have a framework, okay, to make it stick. That's the issue. So that's where I play, is in the how do I help make the change so that the change, okay, is the new default.
That's why you're called NeuroGym, because you have to go to the gym.
Well, you got to go to the brain gym,
the
right?
Brain gym.
Yeah, and the website is myneurogym.com versus neuro. There's actually a whatchamacallit, a physical therapy company called NeuroGym, and we own the trademark for NeuroGym. They have a physical therapy company, but we're myneurogym.com.
Got it. What are you looking forward to this year?
We are developing an inner size app with a whole bunch of inner sizes to train people's brains, which is part of what we have for our clients. So we're developing an app. It's actually being tested right now, and in the next probably 60 days or so, we'll release it to the world.
Wow.
And I've got some great inner sizes for entrepreneurs and business owners.
And can they sign up to get notified on your website?
Yeah, just go to myneurogym.com and sign up for our newsletter. Go to johnassaraf.com and sign up for my daily prime texts, whichever you like. Sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all your time and all your wonderful wisdom.
Thanks,
I think
Cody.
all of our entrepreneurs are going to really get a lot from just being part of your program.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you very much and the work you're doing in the world.
You're awesome. Thank you.